क्या ही बात करें हम. I am a senior associate at a top law firm. I make a good amount of money. I get to learn a lot of amazing things. Yet I keep feeling that I need to, because that's where the glory of litigation is. I need to leave my firm practice and join an independent litigator or start my own work as an independent litigator so that I can also be the next Sibbal, Salve or Singhvi and run around the courts making lakhs of rupees every day and make thundering submissions across courts in the Supreme Court and the Delhi High Court and or whichever high court I'm at, instead of this firm culture. This was the question that was posed to me. This dilemma was posed to me by a senior associate at a top law firm a couple of months ago. And I was thinking about this and I thought I'd love to share my views on this with the world and, of course, what I told that senior associate at that law firm. The thing that I explained was that right now you are earning anywhere close, anywhere from 30 to, or not even 30, maybe I think around 20 to 40 lakhs a year right now, um, as a senior associate at that top law firm. And the money, of course, is amazing. You know that for the first couple of years as a litigation lawyer, when you're working with a litigation lawyer, you don't get to make a lot of money. The stipends, the retainers, as we call them, are very, very bad. Yet, of course, after a few years, you can make much more as an independent litigator than as a senior associate, a principal associate, or even a partner at a lot of law firms. Um, Yet, when you want to quit this for greener pastures, of course, one aspect is that you need to cut back on your living expenses quite a bit. You need to sustain yourself on your savings for quite a bit. I know a lot of lawyers. A great example is this friend who works at a law firm, and every time he made more money, his expenses also grew simultaneously up as well. So if you ask a senior associate working at a top law firm about how much money he makes, he will proudly say the package goes to around whatever 20, 25, 30, 35 lakhs a year. But if you ask them what their savings are, you will have a fancy pen here, some nicely stitched suits here, a bunch of pictures on Facebook and Instagram roaming around the world, this fancy Mercedes or BMW or Audi car, in the garage, and then perhaps a paltry little sum in the bank or in FDs, or if you're prudent stocks or wherever else. I am not making any assumptions about everybody. These are generalized statements from my experience. I could be wrong. Anyways, I digress. The point is that even if you, assuming for a second, have great savings and you want to shift to litigation, the idea that I gave to this person was that instead of quitting cold turkey and then going and joining a senior, where the work will be, if you are a litigation associate in the law firm, the work will be very, very similar. If you are, say, maybe in a corporate merger, acquisition, banking, finance competition team, and you want to be in litigation, and that thing calls out to you, what makes sense is that you start collaborating with litigation lawyers on weekends, in late evenings. And of course, it is very, very difficult. But I can imagine that parting ways with a huge pile of money is harder. So if you want to get into this, I would suggest, if you're already good at this, you're already making decent money at the firm, don't forget about those late night parties, getting drunk at that bar, and and then going home and sleeping it off, and then you know doing a little bit of work on the weekends, and then coming back on the weekdays to crush it out. I would rather suggest that whenever you get the opportunity, rather than you know taking time off from the work, you dive deeper into interesting work that you can collaborate on with other litigation lawyers. I was talking to this friend who is a senior associate, another friend who's a senior associate at a top law firm, and he told me that his friend uh, wanted to get a job in Singapore because of some personal reasons, and because of that, he after and some of you, and that the reason why I'm giving this anecdote is because a lot of you will say, yeah, right, I mean, I'm barely able to cope up with my work, you expect me to do extra work outside of my job. Those are the kind of sacrifices that you need to make, and this is exactly what this uh, friend of this friend did. So my friend told me about this friend who was working at this top law firm, but he still wanted a job in Singapore, anywhere in Singapore, because of personal reasons, and because of that, he chose to give the uh, I think it's a solicitor's exam in the UK. He prepared for it. He gave the exam. He cleared everything at the right time in his life. And my friend told me that every single time we were going out to clubs and bars to drink and to party or to chill, this guy used to abscond. He told nobody about his plans ever. It's only that he completed his solicitor's exam, he qualified, and then he told everybody that yes, I have now become a qualified solicitor in the UK. And because of that, he got this job in Singapore and is now much more happier with his life. If you wish to, if you have these grand plans, you need to understand that litigation is not just about your skills as a lawyer, it is also about your skills as a businessman, which nobody talks about. The skills which are required are of being a person who is able to get clients, a person who is able to explain to clients what needs to be done, how it will be done, what is the timeline, what is the fees which needs to be charged, right? You have to have your thumb on the pulse of the market, the legal market as well, where if you are charging perhaps 10 lakh rupees for a bail application, and then the chamber next door is doing the same work for maybe 1/10 the price, you cannot survive. And those are things which nobody will be able to teach you. You can only learn through assimilation. But the good news is that at least in litigation circles, you can enter into very, very loose arrangements, loose bonds with full-time litigating lawyers. I myself, I'll give you a great example. Around 3 years ago, I started getting a lot of Supreme Court matters, and I did not really have a great, you know, hold over the Supreme Court practice and procedures. But I had matters of my own as well. So I reached out to a person who practices exclusively in the Supreme Court. And I told him that I do not wish for any salary because I am making decent money of my own. But I want to learn with you Supreme Court practice and procedures. And he was grateful enough to allow me into his chamber. And after finishing all of my work, after finishing up my hearings for the day, I would reach his office by around 5:30 or so. His entire team would leave by around 7:30 or so. But I would stick around in the office till longer, till about 8:30, 9:30 sometimes. I would finish off the work that he would give me, the work being that of drafting, research, stuff like that. I would do my drafting, I would submit it to him. He would then tell me the changes that need to be done to make it a file which is appropriate for the Supreme Court. And therefore, through that, I learned in just a few months' time almost everything that there is to be learnt about Supreme Court practice and procedure. And when I used to do the drafting, of course, whenever the matter would be argued by that lawyer, I would also accompany that lawyer at the Supreme Court and see how he argues his matters as well. And that was another bonus point as well. This is something that I have personally done. I've given you the example of the friend of a friend who ended up in Singapore with his dream job because of this. And there are dozens of other examples that I know. I know another lawyer, a very senior lawyer, who, when he wanted to get into litigation, he knew he could not afford to do so back in the day, several decades ago. He started out working in a bank in a regular position, not even a legal position. And while doing that work, he would go around, tell people he's a lawyer, and try to get as much work as possible. Right now, he's an extremely established, well paid senior lawyer who is doing very well for himself and who's an inspiration to me and hundreds of other lawyers who know this story about him. Several other stories as well. Bottom line, if you think you want to get into litigation, even as a starting fellow, or if you are in this particular situation, like the person who called me up with this query, I would implore you not to jump straight away, but instead perhaps test the waters, see what you like, see what you dislike, because at the end of the day, there are several sorts of litigation also happening. And I've talked about it on earlier occasions as well. Don't fantasize about what your life as a litigating lawyer might be. Instead, try to get in hands-on experience of what it's going to be like, and it might not be, the crazy, uh, thing that you thought you will love absolutely to death. Because in a recent video, I also talked about how a friend spent a year working for a top law firm and then completely gave it up to and ended his career in not even litigation but law and turned on to become a filmmaker instead. I know another lawyer who was getting a lot of success as a lawyer, and then last I heard about him, he quit his job as a lawyer and went to Dubai to start training as a pilot, and is now flying as a pilot in some airline. And of course, life takes you in different directions, but it's always better to kind of not leave the thing that makes you a lot of money right now behind and then jump into the other thing. It makes more sense to test out the waters, tiptoe around it, get a feel for it, and if you like it and you know that this is something for you and you're making decent money in this sphere as well, then go quit the previous thing.